Hello again, and welcome to Void Signal. I'm the host of the show, Brian Prime, and this episode is one near and dear to my heart. It's a chat with Chris Bourassa of Red Hook Studios. Red Hook Studios is the creative team behind the critically acclaimed RPG Darkest Dungeon and its sequel, Darkest Dungeon 2. In addition to being a fresh blend of roguelike and dungeon crawler, Darkest Dungeon boasts an enchanting hand-drawn crow quill art style and a memorable, haunting soundtrack by Stuart Chatwood. It's got great writing, fantastic art, and it's sold millions and millions of copies. I've played it for hours and hours and hours, and it's provided me comfort at times when I needed it. Chris is the co-founder of Red Hook and creative director on both Darkest Dungeons and helped shape the bleak, gritty tone for both games. I sat down with Chris for a chat one evening not that long ago to discuss Darkest Dungeon and learn more about him as a person. But before we move on to the discussion with Chris, a quick word from our sponsors. Are you going to Gloam Fest? I'll be at the Los Angeles and San Francisco dates for Gloam Fest at an incredible lineup of dark gothic artists from around the globe. Visit the US West Coast next month. So say hello if you see me in LA or San Francisco. And most importantly, just don't miss out. Gloam Fest is only going to be in LA, San Francisco, Portland, and Vancouver, and it's going to be a unique and exciting experience. Visit gloamfest.com for more information. That's Gloam, Glom, fest.com. Void Signal intro courtesy of Processor. Visit processor2.bandcamp.com for more Processor or search Processor anywhere you get music. Lastly, Void Signal is ad-free and people-powered. You can help support independent media by visiting voidsignal.net or patreon.com/voidsignal and signing up for the Void Signal Patreon. For as little as $2 a month, you get extra content and contribute to the continuation of the Void Signal project. Thank you as always for your consideration and for tuning in. It's always such a pleasure for me to share things I'm excited about with you, my dear listener. Our time is at an end. As always, I will ask you to please stay safe and please stay loud and take care until I get to talk to you again. Welcome to Void Signal. I am your host, Brian Prime. I am joined by Chris from Red Hook Studios. That is sort of an oversimplification of who you are, but it's good enough for now, I guess. You know, lead designer on Darkest Dungeon and fantastic artist, and you do a lot of things behind the scenes at Red Hook. Let me go ahead and just gush for a moment, if you'll allow me, and just say thank you.
Let me just quickly correct you. Not the lead designer. That's my business partner, Tyler Sigmund, but certainly creative director, and we collaborate on the big pillars of the design, but I don't want to leave them out.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Appreciate that. Shout out Tyler, who's not here. But thank you so much for making this work. It is such an honor, such a pleasure. Darkest Dungeon has been a thing that has wound up being rather important to me in my life. It's a thing that I play in times of, I need some comfort, or it's late at night and I can't sleep, and a thing that has been there for me at times that I have needed it. So thank you so much for birthing it into the world, I guess. Thank you so much for making this work. How are things with you in your world?
Well, thank you for the kind words. There's no higher praise than becoming someone's comfort game. I have comfort games, I got comfort movies, and it's a bit like a warm blanket. So it's wonderful to be considered that for someone else.
Yeah.
Things are good. We've done a lot of updates for Darkest Dungeon 2, and we're still keeping on with it.
Yeah.
We just did the Kingdoms game mode expansion in January, and we're working on a follow-up release. This is all free content, actually. We released a paid DLC earlier this year, too, with Abomination back. So it was a lot of fun to really push the design and, not just the visual design, but the mechanical implementation of that character. It was pretty complex. It was pretty rewarding for the team. So it's been a lot of fun to just keep adding to this world that we love.
Yeah. And I do like the direction that Darkest Dungeon 2 went, as far as feeling a little more narrative, learning of where these characters sort of came from. I enjoyed that quite a bit. So
it was a lot of fun to make too. Our hope was that in doing a different type of a sequel, we would avoid the debate of which one was better, because we weren't trying to one up the first game.
Sure.
There's plenty of debate over which one is better, but it was important to us to be excited and interested and passionate about the direction of the game, and retreading the same ground, but with better graphics or different heroes or a slightly different setting. just didn't grab us the same way, trying a completely different approach and narratively bringing the focus onto the heroes instead of the bosses, kind of leaving the main antagonist from the first game, the Ancestor, sort of leaving him behind a little bit because, we'd pretty much established that he was the worst and I didn't know what else we could say about him. Sure. So it was really refreshing to kind of embrace the different, narrative structure and story space.
And it well executed, I would say. It was a thing that I found myself really enjoying, I'm going to take this hero out on the journey again because I want to see what happens next in their story or play their next, little level or whatever it is.
About them a lot, like kind of low fantasy X-Men.
Yeah.
They're kind of a big family, a dysfunctional family of exceptional people, but very, very flawed, very human. And everybody has their kind of Thomas Martha Wayne origin story, cooked in there. So it was a big challenge to write a 5-part kind of mini horror story for every hero inside of a 5-part major horror story for, the protagonist. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of payoff. I find myself sort of drawn to the characters in ways that I previously had not really felt. Things that were sort of about their character were made more evident and more clear. They felt more fully fleshed out, I guess. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I was going to ask you, because the Red Hook was acquired not too long ago by Behaviour Interactive. And it sounded sort of, based on the press release kind of interview thing that I read, it kind of sounded like another Darkest Dungeon game of some kind was maybe in the future. I'm excited for that kind of a thing. But I was curious to hear just sort of if you, this is a thing, your baby that you've made that you are passionate about, but are you okay with continuing to work in this realm, in this world you've created? Or do you feel that need to I'd like to take a breath and do something different for a spell?
This is a very complicated question, actually. I would love to take a break, but I would also love nothing more than to continue to develop the space that we built, the characters, the setting, the kind of creative carve out that we've managed to make. It's very humbling. And I love that we have an audience. Games are so competitive. Indies kind of had a really nice period of exposure that lasted, 8 to 12 years. It's definitely changing now, and the focus, I feel like, is returning outside of the stellar standouts. You're always going to have a Stardew Valley, you're always going to have a Balatro, these kind of out of left field, no one thought it could be done type games. But we're definitely seeing a pivot back to bigger studios, bigger releases, AAA production values, that kind of thing. It's very, very special to me that our game has managed to carve out a niche and maintain a fan base, that has seen us through kind of the past decade, basically. So I love Darkest Dungeon. I am not sick of it. There's a lot more that I want to do with it. I would also love a break at the same exact time as being in love with Darkest Dungeon, but that was part of the reason why the behavior thing made a lot of sense. We felt like, we had a lot of plans and ideas for what we could do as a studio, Tyler and I. We had put together a great team for DD2, 3 times bigger than the Darkest Dungeon 1 team. All passionate, all really, worked hard to ship that game. And we felt like we needed a partner to kind of take the studio and the franchise to kind of the next level. And we were kind of at that teetering point where you can be hands-on with everything with 5 people. You can be hands-on with everything with 10 people. It turns out that you can be almost hands-on with everything at about 25 people. So having a partner who is invested in our vision and kind of gives us the ability to grow, to unburden ourselves of some things we now have integrated legal, we now have integrated finance, or operational overhead that are not really the reason why we started our company. We started Red Hook to make Darkest Dungeon. We didn't start Red Hook to have the best financial accounting tool set in the indie game space. And so, that is just one of the upsides for us of doing that deal. We get big company support, but we're able to develop, I don't know, we're calling it the island model, essentially. We're not tied into their day-to-day. We continue to make the decisions that we make for the product. We closed the deal in September, I guess. And our plan was always to ship to the Kingdoms update, and we did it. And we've got 2 more of those we want to do. Some other stuff we're cooking on. We're still kind of masters of our own destiny, but we have a little more support behind us, which allows us to step back from some of those other roles that are maybe not as central to the IP as.
Sure. More hands picking up logistical things in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's a bigger company now, like just even Red Hook. There's a lot more that has to happen behind the scenes for people to work there to get the best benefit rate and have consistent staff policies and all these types of things that are not even my strength, let alone my area of interest.
Nobody wants to be the HR person. I mean, I'm sure there are people.
But you can't run a company without it. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so necessary.
You need that scaffolding to succeed, quite frankly, and to attract talent. But it sucks, and I hate it. So that was one of the things that the Behaviour Partnership kind of offered us.
Gotcha.
No.
Okay.
We will.
Sure.
But we want to go slow, and we want to do it as it makes sense. We've always hired based on a need. As opposed to like a mandate for growth, like we've got to add X headcount for whatever reason. So we want to be really judicious about how we do that, because it's really important to us that if you're going to work at Red Hook, you also love Darkest Dungeon and you like kind of our grassroots origin story and you kind of fit culturally. And I don't want to rush it. I've seen a lot of studios grow very quickly and they start to buckle under the weight of those decisions.
Gotcha. Seems smart.
Seems prudent. Well, hopefully it is.
Hopefully it is. Okay, let me pick your brain then, because Void Signal is primarily a sort of music-based podcast to start with, but, branching out from there with your help. But I did want to sort of pick your brain a little bit and ask just how much music has played a role in your creative endeavors. Like what kind of soundtracks, what kind of sound design did you maybe have in mind, if any, going into the creation of Darkest Dungeon? Did you already have an idea of like, I want it to kind of sound like this? Or can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, we have a bit of a weird story with how we got our music. Tyler and his girlfriend at the time, she met a colleague at her job, and I think the four of them got together and had lunch or did something. And he comes back to this studio that we were squatting at, basically in the back room. He's like, hey, I think I met a guy who could do our music for us. This is very, very early days. And I'm like, okay, really? And he's like, well, yeah, he's got a band. And I'm like, they all have bands, man. Like, who is this guy? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Everybody's in a band. Everybody's working on a screenplay. He's like, I don't know. He seemed pretty legit. His name was like Stuart, and he's in a band called The Tea Party. I was like, what? The Tea Party, which is a pretty important Canadian alternative rock band. They were internationally too in the 90s when I was going to school. So that blew my mind, because there's the Tragically Hip, there's Rush, there's Tea Party. That's up there with the kind of Canadian music exports. And sure enough, we got to know Stuart, who plays keyboard bass for the Tea Party, and had also done the soundtrack for Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, I believe. And that style of music was what, I had kind of quietly been thinking about. We need something like that sounds threatening, morbid, but also a little exotic. And I wanted that modern edge, because in one of my first meetings with the kind of modern post, like the industrial sound would sound insanity to someone in the Middle Ages. It would sound like, the voice of the devil, basically. It would sound like madness. So I was like, we should put in those modern filters, pull from that like soundscape a little bit, in addition to the period appropriate instruments, just to give it that kind of like chaos and madness that the game was kind of really about. And he was all over that and has delivered exceptional work for a decade for us. It's all on Spotify, and it's all excellent work. And he still keeps trying to top himself. Every time we do a DLC, he's like, okay, I thought about this and these themes, and how does this fit? And he's super, super passionate, which is great. When somebody does that, you want to equal their effort in your own area. And so it's a pretty special relationship. Crazy that he's in the Tea Party. He's like, I'm writing the song for the Color of Madness DLC in my hotel room, in Australia, because we're on tour.
Yeah.
It's like wild.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. I had no idea that he was like I'm not Canadian. I had no idea what the T learning was, but that is, it definitely is captured. And it was the thing that stuck out to me when I, just firing up the game for the first time. I'm just like, man, this soundtrack has such a character of its own. And I feel like there's, I can point to a handful of pieces of media that really have that element of the soundtrack is a character, like something like Chernobyl or something like Darkest Dungeon, where it feels like such a presence. Yeah, beautifully captured. Agree with you there completely. So many layers. That was the thing that stood out to me, as intricately assembled and so many different things going on. And it just blended with the art style and everything so well. It's beautiful shifts.
Yeah, some great synergy there. And there's a lot of technical achievement that goes into it too, because everything is delivered as separate stems and then assembled by our audio engineers. We want you to be able to drop into a fight at different points in the track so that it doesn't feel like being at the same part of the song. He has time changes, all within the same kind of combat track, level of technical expertise that goes into making sure that you're always coming in at the right time. The appropriate stems are fired or muted. Pretty exceptional. Power Up Audio does all of our audio engineering, all of our sound effects, and they work closely with Stuart on the implementation side, which is experience of the music is.
Mm-hmm. Are you still there? I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You cut out for just a second. Okay. Sorry about that. You were talking about, but yeah, that I was unaware of. Like, that is crazy. Like, so all the stems and everything, like, that makes it that much more impressive. Because I was curious as to, like, the pause and like all this action is happening. It's the way everything flows together. And nonetheless, the sound effects and sound design just mashes so well. Yeah, hats off to everybody who works in the audio department for sure.
Yeah, they're pretty incredible. We got a couple of like studio favorite sound effects too. The big bulging gaze from the first game gets referenced all the time because it's just so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fun when people are all kind of pulling in the same direction and excited about their contributions to the bigger picture. I think that's where you get the real magic.
Yeah, agree. And I do think it is important to have somebody who's, like you said, regarding Stuart and his contributions to the soundtrack, working with someone who has a fire and a passion for what they're doing and like they bring their own expertise and excellence to it. It definitely has, in my own experience, made me up my own game of like, okay, I better take this shit serious. It helps elevate it a lot. And I mean, I couldn't imagine having like a full team of people who are just all super fired up about what they're working on. It must be pretty nice for you to like go in and work with a team on a thing that you love.
Yeah, it's been the greatest experience of my career. It was a lot of work just going from zero to even Darkest Dungeon 1 early access. I used to have more hair and a little bit more optimism, but it's been a really incredible journey. It's not something that gets done by one person in isolation. It takes all that effort. It's pretty special. I'm very aware of how rare it is. It's not something that we take for granted, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's excellent. I want to ask you this question. Given that you do seem to be in a good spot in your career and in your life, is there something you could point to that has aided you along the way, like a piece of advice or a practice or something that you've done, just a subtle thing that has sort of helped elevate you to where you are?
I guess I think there's two things that I kind of keep top of mind, even though maybe they're not particularly pleasant. The first is like, I know a lot of people will reference imposter syndrome as a thing to be suffered from. I see it a lot on social media. I pulled off of X in November because I was like, enough's enough. I saw it a bunch there. I've heard from people at conferences and I heard it from students. I've seen it on Instagram and wherever else. I got to a place with that where I'm like, you know what? That's the price of being creative. It's never going to go anywhere. You can't defeat it and everyone has it. And so it's just a fact of life, and I am not the best artist, I'm not the best artist in Vancouver. Never mind, like, I'm probably not the best artist in my neighborhood. I'm fine, I work hard, but I am not the best. And I have been hit by those thoughts middle of the night while I'm working and, this is going to be terrible, blah, blah, blah. It's just noise. It's just noise that your brain makes because you're being creative. It's just the pollution of running your creative engine. It's just the exhaust. When I see people kind of invoke it as a reason why it's so hard to be creative, to write, to paint, to draw, to play music. It should be hard. I don't know when we collectively decided that a creative endeavor should, quote unquote, be easy. It shouldn't. It's hard. It's very hard. And a part of the thing that makes it difficult and challenging is the running diary narrative of your own mind trying to tell you that you're not good enough to do the thing that you're quite literally doing at that moment. So I think giving it no mind or giving it no power and just accepting that it's just kind of like the noise in the background, I think is really important. And I do that regularly. If I feel myself going there, I'm just like, okay, it's just the sound the car makes. It's not worth really investing in. And the other thing that I've kind of come to learn is a very popular saying of, do you have what it takes, right? Do you have what it takes to start a business? What it takes to be a father? Do you have what it takes? All these things.
Sure.
What it takes. But nobody really reflects on what that means, or at least I haven't heard it framed as it is taken from you. Like a piece of you has to die to make something. And I'm not trying to be overly morbid. I'm playing to type here. I'm on brand with Darkest Dungeon, but you have to sacrifice in order to pursue something like this. When we started the company, I was working 30 hours a week freelancing and then 45 hours a week on Darkest Dungeon because I had to pay bills and had a very young child and a mortgage. And so what did it take from me? It took sleep. It took my social life. These are things that had to be burnt at the altar, essentially. And that was the bargain that I made. And I had to kind of stick that through. But there's always you can't have it all, And so I just said, okay, for a couple of years, this is all I'm going to do. This is it. And I paid a price physically, like I was out of shape, But once things had some wind behind them, I was able to make some kind of corrections. But make no mistake that I guess it kind of is maybe just a different framing of like the first thing, but any pursuit worth doing is going to rob you of something, whether it's like pleasure or sleep or diversion or the ability to play games or hobbies or recreation. It made a lot of distance between my wife and I, and that had to be, there was a reckoning there that had to come to. I wouldn't change it though. And sure. I think just being aware that you will be paying a price. Like if you want your podcast or whatever it is to be top of mind or best in class, that's your life. That's what it has to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Agreed. That has been a sort of
sentiment. Goal either, right? Sure. It starts with an intention, I suppose.
Yeah. I have heard that sentiment expressed before, and I do tend to agree with it, that to make something great, you do have to suffer a bit to make it so. And I think that's true of a lot of creatives, kind of like you said, of being kind of tortured inside a little bit by self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy or whatever they may be. But you do it anyway. You do it scared. Like, oh, I'm nervous to do this thing. Well, who cares? You do it anyway because it is.
Yeah, you can't be brave unless you're afraid first, right? That's right. The whole... the trick is to not martyr yourself because no one suffers a martyr. So it's like you make the deal and then you kind of have to fortify yourself a little bit and get on with it because you can't gnash your teeth and wring your hands and cry at the moon when you opted in, right? Like just don't do it then. Like don't make the game if it's this miserable, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that it is the thing that you've pulled yourself out of and sort of that is not the careful balance you're trying to strike now, because I don't know that is sustainable. I feel like you have to hit a point somewhere along the way of finding that magical spot where I'm working on my passion or I am pursuing my goal or my dream while also finding a respite for yourself a little bit. I'm speaking in broad, vague terms here when it comes to creative endeavors, but I do find that to be true of a lot of the people that I've spoken with.
Yeah, I don't know that I did this like nirvana place where you're like doing great work, but also having a great time. I don't know. I'm sure that it sounds great. I try to measure it like based on like peaks and valleys over the course of like, let's say a year, right? Mm-hmm. Like, January was not like a ton of fun if you're measuring fun purely on like, did I go out? Did I go to shows? Did I, go out on dates or whatever? Like I did none of that because I was working a lot this January. Mm-hmm. But I did not work like that in February, and I did more of that other stuff. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that it happens like simultaneously, but my goal is to basically accept that kind of just like university, you chill for a bit, then you realize that paper is due next week. So you ramp up, there's going to be some intense couple evenings right before it's due, then it's finished and you're kind of home free. I guess that's kind of how I have evolved the way I approach work, because I like to be all consumed. I like to be in it for a period of time while I'm effective. And then, you got to pull over and focus on some other things. But I don't know how to do it all at once. So if you can connect me with one of your other guests who's figured it out, that'd be fantastic.
The moment I find a guest who has figured it out, I will keep them to myself because
Yeah, well, you will have found a liar.
Yeah, probably. Because that's not, I still operate very much like I'm still in college. Important thing needs to be done. I will do it the week it needs to happen. And, that'll be fun.
I know the Rise and Grind crew is all about maximizing every minute. I feel like art and creativity are different in that way. Sometimes it's kind of not there. And other times that's all that's there. And you're just like stuffing your face with it.
Yeah.
And so you kind of just you can use your experience, your expertise to get the most out of yourself, even when it's not totally firing for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be wise enough to not go off the deep end when you have an abundance of it. But it will always be, I think, a peaks and valleys game.
Yeah.
Is my sense. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 30 years and I haven't seen any evidence that it's going to change. But
yeah, it does feel like a thing that while it is hot and while inspiration is within you, that is when you should work. Like put in the extra hour or whatever inspiration.
It's like, what a gift, right?
Yes.
What a gift. Not everybody gets inspired. I feel like the best way you can honor that is to really fully embrace it. Now, that's not me saying everybody should crunch and work overtime, which is the sort of,
sure,
popular implication of a line like that coming from the head of Activision. I don't even know who the head of Activision is.
Yeah.
I don't use this to marshal my team. I'm just talking purely personally myself, and I take responsibility for my own behavior. When it comes to the team, we try to be much more tactical, make sure everybody's in good shape. It's not about doing a death march ever.
Yeah. That's good. That is a good thing. I mean, head of Activision, companies like that just don't give a shit about people and are just grinding them to pulp to make profit is not the greatest of things in the world. But, at least there are studios out there like Red Hook who are making things to make things for the sake of making things, I guess.
I mean, we want to make money. Yeah, I think we're trying to be like a sustainable, ethical farm, but we're still trying to sell our food at the grocery store.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal. Still sell the food, but, ethically sourced.
Yeah.
So aside from Darkest Dungeon, aside from Red Hook and your art, what are sort of the other components in your life that you've found give you a lot of purpose and satisfaction and meaning? I mean, you mentioned being a dad. That must come with some stresses, I would imagine, but along with some victories and some good feelings.
It's a lot of work. Love my kids. Do I want to get up at 5 so I can make the 7:00 hockey game out in the neighboring town? No. The answer is no, I don't want to, but I do it. My wife does it sometimes. Parenthood is kind of a whole different animal in and of itself, where there's definitely like beautiful moments that are almost impossible to describe and just a deluge of exhaustion and misery that is very easy to describe. So oftentimes, the takeaway is like, wow, it sucks to be a parent, but it doesn't entirely suck, obviously, or no one would do it.
Gotcha.
I like going to the gym. It's kind of nice not to have a screen in front of me, and I like going on hikes in nature a lot.
Yeah.
Anything that kind of turns the brain off, because I feel like that's where I get rest for the next kind of, and sometimes a different perspective on a creative problem is when you're just not looking at it or thinking about it at all. You can spend so much time kind of in your head that it's not going to get in your body a little bit. Mm-hmm. Not to sound too new agey, which I'm not at all. I own no crystals. There's no lavender in my office at all. But just bringing your awareness straight into your body, getting exercise, being outside, being in nature, going for a bike ride, anything where you're not just trying to beat your face off of a creative problem, be it like writing or art or game design or whatever, is really rejuvenating for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to get away from, because after sitting at a computer for so long working on a thing, you feel like it is reality. You feel like it's your whole world, and being able to get away from that I think is important for anybody, no matter what they're doing. We live so much of our lives online anymore. Not to sound like old man shouting at clouds, but
yeah, totally. It's a mess.
But
yeah, I was only recently exposed to, well, not recently, a couple of years ago, we had a case of Discord drama. It's like, what? people who've never met are mad at each other because someone typed something. Obviously, it can be horrible at this both, but at first blush, you're like, how is this even just go outside? It's an interesting situation.
Certainly. You mentioned going out to shows from time to time. What's the last concert you went and saw that just really blew you away, like knocked your socks off?
The Vancouver Symphony Orchestra will play the soundtrack to a movie while the movie's playing.
Oh, shit.
This is like a regular thing that they do. And I've seen a bunch of them. The opening kind of fanfare for Return of the Jedi just straight up made me cry. Just immediately. Like, as soon as the text crawl came on, I was like, oh my God, I remember being a child. The Skyfall performance was incredible. So I've been to quite a few of those, and they're always awesome. I'm going to see Magic Sword in, I think, this weekend, and they're like kind of this weird like synth guitar 80s thing, no vocals. They're pretty awesome. Pretty excited for that.
I've not seen them live, but I know that they toured with, I meant to, because they were on tour with Dance with the Dead for a while.
Yeah, that's right. They've done a couple of collaborations with Dance with the Dead.
Yeah.
Which I like Dance with the Dead, but they're kind of like Rob Zombie's drummer. Like, everything is so like beat heavy in your face. That's their style. It's cool. But Magic Sword kind of, I feel like, has a bit of a bigger range. I'm, based on what I've heard, it's subjective. Sure. But yeah, big fan of that. And I don't know, my tastes are kind of all over the place.
I think that in my experience of meeting people who are into art or into music or into whatever they're into, genre doesn't matter much. People are just sort of into whatever they're into, regardless of what it might be. It's very rare for me to meet somebody who's like, I only listen to unholy Norwegian sea metal only, or whatever,
right?
Whatever particular specialized genre they have. It's usually a lot of people who are just like, oh, I love this thing and I love that thing, and they just love it. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. Checks out.
I don't like to be limited, I've never found country music particularly appealing. I will say that, but yeah, I don't have any real rules for myself. It's the same with art. Like I can like, anime and Monet in the same breath.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of crazy to even if it's totally not entirely your thing, there's got to be something of value or some kind of perspective or insight that you can get from a piece of work.
Absolutely. And I'm such a sucker for live music too, that like, even if it's a band that maybe I don't care about, but like if they're playing live, I'll probably go watch and have a pretty good time. Live music is fun and can expand your horizons a little, I think, to appreciate.
For sure. I saw Bruce Springsteen before Christmas. And isn't he like 80? He's like 75. He played for like 3.5 hours. Like by the end of it, my wife and I were like, it's a little too much Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
But it was amazing.
I'm sure. I've heard that before, actually, from other people who are like, oh, Springsteen's amazing. I saw Iron Maiden a few years ago, and Bruce Dickinson, just like, he had more energy on that stage than I have on my best days. I just was like, man, he's just all over the stage, and just what an incredible performance.
Time, right? I guess that's the thing. Is like, if when they're enjoying it, you enjoy it more, which is why we wanted to make changes for Darkest Dungeon 2. We wanted to enjoy making it. We wanted to have some fresh challenges, and we felt like if we enjoyed making it, it would be a more enjoyable game.
Yeah, I have been enjoying it immensely.
There's a lot of debate around whether or not we should make changes and stuff, but I don't know. I stand by them.
I do tend to agree, just because I liked it for that reason, because it was not the same thing. It was similar enough, but a new coat of paint, a new way to experience it. And
yeah, that was the goal.
It felt like a remix, a good one. So good stuff. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I will go ahead and put the last question of the podcast to you, which is just, what is something that you have been enjoying recently? And your answer can be anything: book, movie, TV show. Just what's something that you are jazzed about when you wake up?
Well, you opened by kindly referring to our game as a comfort game for you. So maybe it's fitting. Time is my comfort game. It's a kind of a strange pixelated but 3D art style Viking survival kind of crafting game, and I'm normally not into those games, but the building in it is really soothing. So when Russia invaded Ukraine, I built this gigantic tower. Let me try and like put my head in the sand a little bit and cope with the news. And then, not to get political, but there's been a lot of cross-border talk recently, and I found this appetite for like, oh, I should get back into Valheim. Completely unrelated. Like I hadn't connected the dots. And I was like, it's been a long time since I played Valheim. I should probably check it out, see what they added. And then I realized, oh, I just want to build like another crazy building, to kind of get away from the horrors of the news cycle. But that game I keep coming back to, and right now I'm pretty hot on it. I just like going in, I turn on a bunch of cheat codes, and then I just build shit. And it's very, very relaxing. I'll put on like lo-fi music or sometimes even like a podcast or something. And then I'm just like, I'm going to build a Viking house that sticks off the side of a mountain. And then, just figure it out from there. So I've been enjoying that and building Gundams.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, I heard you mention that in a previous interview of being like into building Gundams and such. So
that was my pandemic coping. I didn't do any sourdough. I didn't do any yoga. I just built, like, I think by the end of the 2-year, lockdown type phase, I think I had done something like 217 Gundams. It was like too much.
Damn, that's a lot.
No regrets.
Speaking of comfort games, I always answer the question myself, but speaking of comfort games and things that I go back to often, aside from Darkest Dungeon, of course, No Man's Sky is just scratches that itch for like, I want to build a thing, or I want to have a relaxing kind of experience and see the stars. It has all these great moments of all these wonderful sound cues set up on it, that with like this fantastic sort of postmodern rock electronic kind of a score that just, it is so touching and so heartfelt. Just the music in the game and the color palette, it's so relaxing to put your feet up and play this kind of Ray punky experience with these very loose threads of narrative throughout it that ask big questions about existence and
which that's sci-fi's whole job, in my opinion. And what a story of like being kind of oversold by Sony, having this huge blowback on launch, this tiny little indie team, and then what did they do? They just stuck with it for like 9 years, update after update after update. Despite all of the online outrage and hate and everything, they just passed like mostly positive on their Steam reviews, which for anybody who might hear this who doesn't understand, it's a big deal because Steam is the primary storefront for games and your user review score is really important there. And so it's just kind of a triumph of stick-with-itness a little bit. I'm in awe of that team. I think it's really impressive that they managed to keep their wits about them.
Yeah, agree. It went from being a thing that no one was recommending to anybody to a thing that I'll run my mouth about it to anybody of like, you should play this. It is fun. It is a thing that is pleasant to experience. And really, I'm really glad that things turned around for the company that was making it. Hello Games, I think is the name. Yeah.
Maybe I'll dump Valheim for No Man's Sky.
Oh, yeah. We'll see how that goes. The world is sort of falling apart right now. It is kind of a shame that we're trying to like live out our dreams and everything while we have the backdrop of dystopian nightmare sort of onsetting, fine.
I vacillate between catastrophizing and then being like, look, in the 80s, they had like nuclear terror. So
yeah,
it probably didn't feel great then either.
Yeah.
It still works.
That's it. Yeah, I've still got running water.
I'm trying to concentrate on what I can control, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Within the realm of my control is what I'll worry about for now. I'll fight fascism tomorrow.
I think all the stoicism like books are flying off the shelves right now.
Yeah. All right, that is it. Thank you again so much for your time and for having a chat. This has been wonderful. I'm very grateful. I will go ahead and let you go. Thank you again so much for your time and for the chat. And I look forward to the next thing that you end up making. And I'm look forward to putting more hours into Darkest Dungeon. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to chat. Thanks for reaching out. And I appreciate your time too.
Yeah, thanks so much. It means a lot to me. It really does. And
Void Signal intro and outro courtesy of Processor. Visit processor2.bandcamp.com for more Processor, and visit voidsignal.net to help support the creation of more Void Signal. Stay safe, stay loud.